Hello, my name is Evie Lee and I'm taking Sociology 101 right now, and this is my online presentation on the norms of society. As society continues to evolve into a more complicated melting pot of people, we see that the McDonaldization of society has caused people to be therefore a little bit more used to a set way and a basic rules and general concepts that are formed. So as these masses of people form to come together, we come together, but we also have these set rules, which is what we'll call as social norms, that are expected behaviors that people, a common social norm would be to be wearing clothes or to be clothed out in public or within the society. To briefly discuss the creation of norms, this is according to Fox and Anderegg of 2014. Norms are defined as how groups interpret appropriate behavior for social groups, social settings, or the display of romantics. Social norms usually originate due to culture. However, also according to Hayden and Sabert of 2016, argue that not all norms actually reach the final phase of what we call widespread acceptance, and that's from then on that they become a part of that culture or defining feature of the culture. And actually, the creation of norms is something that if once widely accepted, which means it could actually even become a law, which is just a rule now. It's a practice-driven equivalent, basically. Also argued by Fox and Anderegg, we can also see that laws have a really large connection with norms. Like a social norm is to be basically clothed, right? But there's a law that we do not allow public nudity. We see those are two very, very closely tied between laws and norms. But we also see that norms will probably come before laws, because norms show the widespread acceptance, and once they are accepted, therefore they can be now become a law, because now it's just a general expected to get punished for. The enforcement of norms is what we would refer to as laws, and they begin with cultures and smaller forms of communities, and then eventually once they are accepted widespread throughout the society, then they become norms, and from norms they will become laws once they are enforced by law enforcement. So we also see that civil behavior can also promote the ease of living and socialization, because of these laws we can actually go through life a lot easier. At a small micro level, society can function as a whole better when there are less distractions. So when you have all these norms coming through, it takes away a little bit of the distractions in society, and it makes it easier for people to move through life. Therefore, we can see that social norms are a process of McDonaldization in which help the efficiency of running society. Another topic that I discussed is how McDonaldization and civil behavior as a whole actually is catapulted in order to make society more efficient, in which we see that enforcing expected behaviors and those social normalities to become laws, we see that society functions better as a whole. And a really good example is how civilians are expected to be clothed out in public, because without clothing we see a lot of distractions. We as a whole are generally accepted is that clothes take away those distractions, which allow us to become more efficient walking through life in the society. We see that norms are actually a key part in the formal and informal institutions. We see that usually in business there's a norm that you should always be wearing more professional clothing, which would be instead of wearing sweats and a t-shirt, you see that a lot of businessmen and businesswomen will wear colors that are blue, dark, a little bit more professional. They'll wear coats, like suits, in which we see for events such as business meetings, those important type of meetings. It's a key part in the formal regulations that businesses have. And this is also supported by Shockey in 2015 in his research that shows how social laws actually help regulate society. It allows society to function without any setbacks. It also shows the social stratification that is like a direct result from powerful individuals reaching a general consensus or reaching an accord. in which we see norms and laws are both to be obeyed. We see examples set by these powerful figures through social stratification. So anybody in the lower forms of the stratification generally follow those leaders, those people who are in positions of power. In the topics of romantic relationships, there's a lot of female oppression that is present in places like Cambodia. However, because of this, females are shown to be leader-like. They will stand up to their male counterparts, their male decision makers, as stated by Burneth in 2015. Culture actually plays a really, really big role between differences in the tiny quirks that different societies and how their societies have different norms, how the people in those society all have different ways of viewing what is normal in their society. Like if we were to go into an Asian culture, which is usually a little bit more privatized, we see that couples in Asian cultures tend to not make public declarations of their romantic relationships. However, we see in America, where social media is making a really big difference, that kissing in public is normal, making out in public is normal, just holding hands with your significant other in public is seen as something that is very, very normal. In which, if we were to go to Asia, which now is more influenced by Western culture, we see that Asian norms are slowly beginning to break out of that private romantic life setting that they have set for themselves. However, if we go to Cambodia, as stated by Burneth in 2015, that there's a very large existence of women in politics and women politicians, which is a complete change from Western culture. We also see that, so in conclusion, we see that the creation of norms is a social phenomenon that occurs despite individual differences, despite the cultural differences, sometimes cause and initiate this norm to form. And social norms are kind of an ambiguous topic. It's that lead to eventual social acceptance and social expectations that will help guide society and its civilians through rational and irrational behavior that is expected upon them when they enter society, in which we also see that on a more powerful level that social stratification can actually lead to the creation of laws. These people in power who accept or expect these norms to be behaved certain ways, in such ways, make these laws in order for civilians to be more likely to perform these norms, to behave in such ways. We see how laws just serve as a function to maintain order and control of the behaviors individuals make in society.